partners in regular positions at 6 weeks, all right? So this, when you can go back to hacking and working your horse lightly, it's a horse that you know in a situation that is relatively well controlled, like an arena, rather than a showground with some wild horse that hasn't ridden since you got hurt, okay? So it has to be reasonable, and an indoor arena would be a great place to do that, just where the risk is reduced, where the ground seems a little bit softer, in an environment that the horse knows. And then this is when Val and Deanna begin to drill you again. So they begin the drills and the schooling, and then it all begins again. If you only listened to me, you wouldn't have fallen off in the first place, right? All that stuff that starts down here in step 4. And then the jumping. We want to go back to simulate competition before you get put in a competitive environment. What we do know from the statistics on falls in equestrian sport is nothing brings on, falls like, like an international competition. And if you make that a championship level competition, for whatever reason, even if the courses are the same, even more people fall off. So we want to simulate competition, but we have to recognize that nothing replaces competition completely. So recognize that a competition scenario, different jumps, a horse is just not quite settled, you had a bad trip, you had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, all those stupid things that we do for horse shows are going to make you probably less resilient on the day, particularly if you're coming back from an injury, you've had some time out of the saddle. If you're send them here to Val and Deanna, so keep them in training, okay, that's the whole idea, so they don't get wild, because our season's only 4 weeks long as it is. So those are the things that you need to think about. That's the planning. When I look at it, it's not just that 1, 2, 3, it's a comprehensive approach to how you're going to manage that situation to keep it from happening again. And then you go back and then you win the championship, and then you write that great article that says my story, from the brink. From the brink of death with my concussion to provincial champion, and then you go to the Royal, right? Wonder what the parents of all those kids do riding those hunters. Okay, so there we are, team. That's the concussion talk in a nutshell. I was shooting for kind of 20-25 minutes. You can go on and on and on. I talked to a guy from England, one of the helmet producers, about concussions, and finally I had to tell him I had another meeting because he went on for an hour and a half about the science that was so far above my head I couldn't follow. Concussion can go that route. They're working on helmets that can reduce concussions, but if they're selling you helmets currently that they say will reduce your likelihood of concussion, I think you have to be a little bit careful. Right? It's like selling you a horse that'll never buck you off. There's no such thing. So that's where you have to be a bit careful. A properly fitting helmet is critical. There's no one brand name. I think they all have to pass a certain standard to be sold in Canada. They're saying a certain time limit. Couple of years probably, and they should be replaced. After a bad fall, your helmet should be replaced. Some of the helmet companies, Charles Owen is one, have a helmet replacement or exchange program. If you have a bad fall, they'll give you a certain credit on your helmet. And I've got pictures in the slides saying where if helmets are absolutely destroyed by people falling off in indoors and hitting the walls. Yeah, what we don't see are the micro cracks. If you've had a bad fall on a helmet, just rest assured that helmet ain't what it used to be. And if you found the helmet in the field because it's been sitting out all winter, you probably don't need to wear that. If it's been sitting in someone's closet for 10 years, again, you probably don't need to wear that. Buy the best helmet that you can. The helmet's got to fit so you're comfortable, happy wearing it. You got to decide whether you put your hair up or leave your hair down. But you've got to do the same thing every time. Don't buy a helmet to wear with your hair up if you're going to wear your hair down in one of those floppy ponytails that people seem to like now. I mean, it's got to fit your head. It's got to be what you're going to wear and use every day. That's the bottom line. And you're not going to get helmets without chin straps anymore, so that's sort of the move. So there you go. That's kind of the talk. It's much more fun with Jessica because she's kind of talky and lively and makes it great and fun and has answered so many questions already because they've had these open fora on dealing with the new concussion guidelines, and so they had these open communication lines of people calling in from all across the country. She knew all the questions people were going to ask. That is the frequently asked questions segment that you have in your handout. If you want to return to play, you need to be cleared by a physician if you are on the Equestrian Canada medical checklist, medical, that follow-up list. And there is a form that you can get from any steward at any competition. Once that's been activated and the steward has sent in the information that you had a fall and there was a suspected concussion, and the physician needs to sign off on that form. It is available on the website. The stewards will also have it because they come in the same package as the fall report, accident report forms, and they will give this to you. And you will take it to a healthcare professional, which basically is a physician or nurse practitioner, or emergency doctor, your own family doctor, someone in a walking clinic, someone in a concussion clinic, that is comfortable assessing you and saying, that you were concussed or you were not concussed. If you get put on that medical checklist for a possible concussion, and you see a doctor and they say, hey, look, I don't think you had a concussion, and they sign the form, guess what? That form goes in, and you're cleared to go. And the other way that it's used is after you follow the steps 2 weeks down the road, they say, hey, look, you're over your symptoms back, you're on the medical watch list, but now you're cleared of your symptoms and you're good to go back. You followed that 6-7 step return to play guide. I sign off on the form and back it goes. So it can be to say you didn't have a concussion, or it can be to say that you're now ready to compete again. And there may be times and instances where physicians or concussion clinics will say, hey, look, I don't think this athlete is ready to go back. And they're going to fax that form into Equestrian Canada to say, this athlete needs to be out for a longer period of time, even though I know the Young Riders Championships is in 2 weeks, this athlete shouldn't be cleared. People at the meetings ask about international athletes competing here and about Canadian athletes competing elsewhere. If you're competing outside the country, you need to get permission of Canada to compete. So it would affect you if you're competing in the US. International athletes competing in Canada in international events, there would be communication between EC and the FEI, as well as Canadian athletes competing outside the country that would be reporting back to our national office. So you can't really game the system and just kind of escape it by some artificial boundary. I mean, that may not apply to you this year, but there may be some year that it does. If you're competing in the US and you get injured, as a Canadian athlete, that report form should still go back to the EC office. So, there you go.